Hey everyone, Mark here back with another video. In this episode, we're going to discuss protecting yourself from high inflation and steps you can take right now to ensure that your money is well protected, even when everything else is in the toilet. If you've been making plans for the summer and you've noticed that the cost of flights or the cost of that all-inclusive trip looks to be more expensive than last year, or that the cost of groceries has gone up even though you've basically been buying the same thing, then what you're witnessing is the latest impact of inflation. Now, like most consumers, the reason why this starts to have an effect on how much money you have left over is not that the price of everything is becoming more expensive, it's that your money is losing value because your income is not able to keep up with the rising costs. Now, if someone was to ask you what you'd rather have, $1 today or $1 tomorrow, what would your answer be? Drop a comment with your guess below. Now, if you answered $1 tomorrow, then that's the correct answer. And that is because a dollar loses value over time due to rising costs, also known as inflation. So getting $1 today will be worth less than getting $1 tomorrow. While the cost of things continue to go up, the worst part of this is that most folks don't know how long they will feel the pain or what to do about it. Well, the simple answer is you will feel the pain until you choose to do something about it. So keep watching because we're going to discuss what to do about it. But before we do, be sure to drop a like down below, because it helps with analytics and also lets me know what sort of videos you like so I can keep giving you more of that. Now, with that out of the way, let's continue. For the everyday consumer, an increase in cost of, well, everything will make you think twice about making any extravagant purchases in order to avoid any big dents to your wallet. But for investors like yourself, you're probably more worried about your money losing value in the market and how to protect yourself from this. Now, keep in mind that inflation can get really bad really fast. We're already seeing it with the last inflation report showing a 9.1% increase in the cost of goods year over year. We've already seen that the government has been tightening policy and raising interest rates in an effort to bring inflation down to around 2%, which is where it's historically been. But there's still a long way to go before we get there. And many experts believe that this cannot be done without bringing other economic harm, and by that, they mean a recession. But let's not go down that rabbit hole, and we'll save the recession talk for another video. The first way that you can protect yourself from inflation is to increase your savings rate. To do this, you'll need to keep track of how much you're spending. And if you're not sure how to start, I'll link your video below. But this essentially means that you should make sure that your spending, that is your money going out, does not exceed your income, that is your money that's coming in. Now, once you get into the habit, you want to make sure that the rate at which you are saving increases. Let me explain. When you're looking at inflation, it's best to look at it from two sides. That is, the reported inflation rate, like the 9% that you hear in the news, and the actual inflation rate that you experience, which depends on what items that you buy. Now, the June CPI report from the Department of Labor shows that even though the reported inflation rate was 9.1%, we could see that the core categories that are needed for survival are much, much higher. Food is actually at 10.4% inflation year over year, utilities at 38.8%, and gas is at a whopping 59.9%. Now, increasing your savings rate can help protect you in the sense that you have more money at your disposal to deal with the rising costs of these items. In order for you to increase your savings rate, first you want to list out the things that you're currently spending your money on. You'll be surprised at just how often you're spending on online purchases or eating out or buying shoes or whatever other leisurely thing you got going on. Now, once you've made your list, calculate the sum of money that those items cost. Now add that to the total of the amount that you're currently able to save per month, and then divide that by the total income you bring in. This is your after-tax income, by the way, and then multiply that by 100. And this is your new or your target savings rate. So do the math and set your new savings rate target. Next, you want to spend wisely. What exactly is meant by this? Well, one way will be to avoid extravagant spending. In a high inflationary environment, you want to do your best to hold on to as much money as possible, but you also want to make sure that when you do spend money, you're doing so intelligently and with a purpose in mind. The best thing you can do in this case is to use coupons on everything. If you want to buy something, coupon it, or use a coupon app that you can help find the best deals in your area. For large purchases, refer to the latest CPI data to see what types of goods are currently at the highest inflation rates, and then stay away from those. For example, you might want to hold off on buying a car if the inflation on used cars is the highest. Now, examples of coupon apps are Rakuten, Ibotta, and Flip. Those are pretty good to use. Another way you can spend wisely is to only buy what is absolutely necessary. Also, keep a note of the things you want to buy and look out for when there's a sale on those items before you even consider buying it. To summarize, what it boils down to is this: just don't pay full price. Paying full price on things should be an exception. Now moving on to the next point, which is to hitch your investments to things that inflate. So think about it. When the cost of things inflate, the best way for companies to keep up is to also increase the cost of goods and services sold. And even though the consumer bears the brunt of these increases, more expensive sales mean more revenue generated for these companies, which fuels their growth. And if you're invested in these companies, you'll be taken along for the ride as well. Now, which companies and sectors offer these benefits? Well, the first one that comes to mind is consumer defensive, which has been the natural choice. But if you want to look beyond that sector, we can definitely do that. Actually, since 1970, inflation on average has hovered around 3%. And when we look at the most inflation-thriving sectors, that is, sectors that thrive in 3% and over levels of inflation, well, the results can be seen in the chart on your screen. As you can see, the energy and REIT sectors have historically done an excellent job of thriving during inflation, and a sure sign of inflation is rising gas prices, so that definitely makes sense with regards to energy being a top beneficiary. We can also see a solid history of performance within the utility and health sectors. Now, when picking which companies to invest in, besides all the usual fundamentals like free cash flow, operating margins, debt ratios, etc., you also want to take a look at companies that are well equipped to fight inflation, specifically companies that have the power to raise prices without losing customers and impacting revenue. These are the strong, quality companies that you want to take a look out for with go-to products that will do well to weather the effects of inflation. But let's say that you didn't want to invest in a particular company or sector, and you said, okay, I'll put my money in the S&P 500. Or you're already in a broad market ETF and want to keep dollar cost averaging. Historically speaking, the S&P has been in inflation, and when you factor in the average inflation of 2 to 3%, the annual return of the S&P 500 has been around 7 to 8% on average. Now, does this mean that you get a 7 to 8% return every year investing in the S&P 500? Absolutely not. But the average return over the long term will yield this amount. So if you are a long-term investor, which you should be, this is an equity for you to invest in to keep ahead of inflation. Next, let's talk about investing in real estate. Now, this is probably the most capital intensive of all the points mentioned here, but it's one that's been tried, tested, and true. Buying real estate gives you the chance to establish monthly cash flows from renters, and if you're able to secure a property that gives positive cash flow, then the rental income will help offset the rising cost of inflation. An additional bonus here is that rising inflation will also result in the value of the rental property appreciating as well. And not only will this outpace inflation, it will be unlikely that the value of the house will significantly drop in value after it appreciates. And the average rental cost will also increase, which will result in more equity that will be made available to buy more properties and increase wealth. Last and definitely most important is to invest in yourself. Now, what exactly do we mean by this? This means that you should use the time to develop skills that will increase your earning power and land you a higher paying job. You might have had your eyes on a particular position, or even were considering changing industries, so now is the time to start developing those skills that you need in order to make that happen. The key thing here is to identify skills that you will anticipate will be needed in the near future and start learning those skills. And once you get enough experience and you're adept at using those gained skills, you can move on to starting your own consulting firm that leverages those skills. Warren Buffett has famously said, the best hedge against inflation is to improve your own earning power. If you increase your talent, they can't take it away from you. Now, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and remember to drop a like down below, as it really does help out the channel. If you found value out of this video, be sure to comment and share this video with a friend. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.